welcome to episode 107 of Explode Your Expert Biz Show, brought to you by gtex.org.uk. I'm your host, the one and the only Simone Vincenzi, the expert strategist, and this is the podcast for experts who want to become the ultimate authority in their niche while making an impact in the world. Today, I have the pleasure to interview Tim Meuchel, on the topic from struggling entrepreneur to thriving business in 10 months. It's going to be an awesome interview. We'll talk about how to 10x your business, how Tim overcame the I want to quit moment that a lot of entrepreneurs experience, and also how Tim uses videos to engage his followers and much more. It's a great conversation. You don't want to miss it, so make sure that you stick around. Now, before we start, and I'll tell you more about Tim and everything else, let's dive into the tool of the day. This is something that I've started recently because I'm a bit of a techno geek fan, and I'm not a geek, but I love my technology, if you know what I mean. So I'm always exploring new apps. I'm always on the look for what can I use in my marketing that helps me to stand out and what can help my business be more efficient. So the tool of the day, that's how we started, and that's what I'm sharing with you today, which is another filming app. If you look at it, I'm a bit into videos, yes. So the past 3 episodes we did, it was all about video editing app, filming apps. So I'm keeping the trend alive, which is called Filmic Pro. Filmic Pro is an awesome app, is the best video recording app that I found in the market, which also can record videos in 4K with a great quality of video and audio. You have literally professional setting. You can turn your iPhone or Samsung into a proper camera for professional videos. So make sure that you check it out. It's called Filmic Pro. I'm recording all my videos, even my professional videos. I'm recording them with my Filmic Pro app. I absolutely love it. As usual, there is no affiliate link, is no affiliation here. There is just the link of the website in the show notes, which you can check it out and you can click. I'm not earning any money from it. It's just that I want to share it with you, what works for me and my business. And if I do something which is affiliated, then I will let you know. That's how I am. Now, let's get into the groove as well. If you haven't, if you want to make money from selling from the stage and creating presentation that sells from seminars or webinars, then make sure that you download your Ultimate Selling from the Stage checklist, which is the most comprehensive checklist to create a pitch that sells without selling like a douchebag. So you can click the link here in the show notes. That will help you making much more money and getting more clients from your sales, from your events and webinars. And also join our Facebook group. You know, this journey can become quite lonely and isolating. So you want to be surrounded by other people that can understand what you're going through, can help and support you. And also you want to connect with all the amazing guests that we have here on our show. What a better way than joining our Facebook group, Explode Your Expert Biz, which you can join right now. The link again is in the show notes. Now, let's talk about Tim. Let's talk about Tim right now, so then we can get started with the episode. Now, Tim is the creator, author, and podcast host of The 10 Factor, and he uses his 10-month success blueprint. Tim helps consultants and entrepreneurs create a thriving business built around their ideal lifestyle. Like many successful entrepreneurs, Tim failed his way to success. He lost more than $300,000 in 2008 after resigning from a 12-year corporate management career to pursue his side business full-time. The business quickly grew eight times more within 4 months, and he was able to retire his wife, and 10 years later, she's still a stay-at-home mom. Several years after its exponential growth, a bad business deal left Tim's company almost bankrupt. Ooh, That wasn't a funny moment, and you will hear about that during the interview as well. And tapping into his emergency funds, he fought back and restructured the business, resulting in a new profit producing model requiring less than 40% effort. Seeing an opportunity to give back and help other struggling entrepreneurs, Tim reverse engineered his process, validated it with top entrepreneurs, and created a 10-month roadmap called the 10 Factor. As I said, this is going to be an incredible interview, so make sure that you listen to it from start to finish. If you haven't subscribed yet to the podcast, make sure that you subscribe it right now, and please share it. Please share it with people. If you found this valuable, please share it with other experts that need to hear this message. This is the biggest thing you can do for me. Subscribe, share it, leave a review, because that's how you can support our work the most. Now, without further ado, it's time to hear it from Team Meuchel, and let's start the music. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Explode Your Expert Biz show. Today I'm here with the one and only Team Meuchel. How you doing?
So, Bene, I'm so pleased to be here. This is awesome. I'm really looking forward to talking to your listeners, and hopefully I can provide lots of value for them today. So let's do it.
Absolutely. I remember the interview that we had on your show, so I was pumped about that. It was a brilliant interview, and I wanted to have you on my show because there was so much great conversation that we had around creating seminars and selling from seminars and creating high-ticket programs. So that's what we did for you. And today is for our listeners is about sharing how to create, grow, and scale a business, because you have just released the book. What's the name of the book again, Tim?
So the book is called The 10 Factor, and the subtitle is From Struggling to Thriving Business in 10 Months. So we can dive right into that.
Absolutely.
And everybody, even if they're a business that's in good standing, they can always improve, and that's what we do.
Absolutely. So before we dive into that, Tim, why don't you tell us a bit more about your journey and how did you end up writing this book?
Let's do it. So I am, by trade, I'm a civil engineer, and this is going back a little bit. And I followed the path of, and this goes all the way back to when I was a kid. I was a paper boy, and I had this route, and I was delivering papers at a whopping 7 cents a paper, and it was delivered twice a week. And I was like, you know what? There's a problem here. I'm delivering to a house, and then I'm skipping a couple houses, and I'm delivering to another house. So I went to my supervisor, and I said, is there a way I can infill these houses? So he said, sure. So they were paying me $25 to infill them. And I pretty quickly doubled my route size and increased my income substantially. And I guess I was, an entrepreneur at heart. So then
you definitely were.
Right. So then I went to high school, went on to college, followed the typical track. I picked my major freshman year, went through in 4 years, graduated as a civil engineer, and went to work in construction management on the management end for a dozen years. Well, about 7 years into the 12, something happened, and I got the itch. I had transitioned into, I guess, the next phase of my life, and there was some issues with how the business was set up. I started to get serious with my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, and we started to think about, okay, I've got a good job here. I make a decent salary, but there's some issues with travel and with how much money I make. So we had a dream, and our dream was for my wife to stay at home and raise the children, which we didn't have yet, and for me to be the primary breadwinner, make the money at work, and afford us to raise the family in that manner. Well, my job was not going to let that happen. So we were going to have two working parents, and I might be on the road for up to a year or 2 years at a time, coming home to visit the family once a month.
Yeah.
And for me, that was just something I didn't want. So I started a side gig, and I started a small contracting company, and it kind of moved along, and it started to take off, and I did it for about 15 months. And then what I had planned for all those years actually happened. I got called into my boss's office. It was a Friday afternoon, And I'm in Maryland, so I'm midways up and down the East Coast in the United States. And I got a call said, hey, we need you to go to New York. We have a problem job. We need you to go fix it. Well, we were in the process of trying to have our first child. So I asked the questions that somebody that's been there 10 or 11 years would ask. How many days a week is this job running? 7. How many shifts a day? 3. You've already committed me to the owner, right? Yes. How often am I going to come home? There was a pause. So me, watching this happen over the years, I knew that once I got there, unplugging was going to be impossible. I had been promised as the fixer. So, so then I said, well, look, we got 2,200 employees in this company. I'm the guy. Why does it have to be me? Well, because you're the guy. You're going to go. And I said, I'm not going. And this was the first time in almost 12 years that I had actually pushed back. And I said, no, I'm not going. So my boss said, well, this is not negotiable. This is basically me telling you need to be there Monday morning. Here it is Friday afternoon. So I said, okay, well, there's a problem. I have another business. So at that point, my boss's jaw literally hit the desk. And he's picking his jaw up. And he goes, what do you mean you have another business? And I said, well, obviously it didn't impact my work because it's been 15 months and you knew nothing about it. But I have my own vehicle because I had a company car and I had a lot of benefits at this company. I said, I have my own vehicle. I have my own computer. I have my own email. I have my own phone. I have my own equipment and tools. I have my own office stuff. I did everything to protect myself and not impact the company. So I knew that eventually it was going to come.
One day it was going to happen.
That I was going to, I knew I wasn't going to get shipped out of town. But in hindsight, it was, smart that I did that. So needless to say, they found somebody else to go. And, my boss said, well, what we need to do is we need to figure out how to basically get you more money so you can shut this business down. Well, I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I'm shutting this business down because then you really own me. So a few weeks after that, I gave my notice. So when I gave my notice, what I did was I signed over $334,200 in unvested benefits and stocks with the company to go out on my own and be a full-time entrepreneur. So that was, at that point in my life, that's a lot of money. Right?
Yep.
So I was officially all in.
Yeah.
Fast forward 4 months later, my wife quit her job, her 10-year job, and she's never gone back to work. Well, that was 2008. So here we are in 2018. So we accomplished that dream. So that is how my journey started. My business grew 8 times in the first year. So we exploded out of the gate once I went all in. But then it was a problem. A few years down the road, I got through the honeymoon period of the business, and I realized that, and this was through a lot of soul searching, and this is a big part of the reason I have the program built the way it is. I realized I had created a business that I was really good at that I did not love. And you and I talked a little bit about this when I interviewed you. I had created a business that was branded for me to be in the trenches 100% of the time, which is fine if you're a consultant or a coach. But with what I was trying to do, I did not want to be in the trenches. So I had a real problem. So that business model for me was long-term unsustainable because I couldn't keep my head into it. So go forward a few years, we kind of leveled off and we continued to, we lived a good life. I was doing what I always wanted to do, and I was, working around my lifestyle and things like that. But I wasn't, it was eating away at me. So then we had a bad business deal that we didn't get paid a tremendous amount of money. And it was the third time we didn't get paid, and the third one really, really hurt. And when that happened, from where I'm sitting right now, I walked across the house because I'm in my home office, said to my wife, I said, I think I got to get a job. So this was kind of almost a repeat of my boss picking his jaw off the table. Now it's my wife. And she goes, what do you mean? And I had just gotten done with the attorneys talking through it. And I was like, we're not getting paid. This money that we've been promised for a few years is not coming in. And it was, it was a lot of, it was almost enough to bankrupt everything I had created for 10 years. So what I did was I said, look, I need to have you look me in the eye. And it was one of those husband, wife, or significant other looks that you have after a lot of years where you just look each other in the eye. And if anybody's been in a long-term relationship, whether it be business or life or a sick family member, whatever it is, you have that look. We exchanged that look, and I needed her vote of confidence that I could figure this out. So I told her, I said, I think I might have to get a job, but that is not a good answer because that's going to put us back 10 years and we're going to start over. Mm-hmm. And you're getting a job and I'm not going to make enough money because it's the same. I'll go back to the same field and this and that. So I said, you got to let me figure this out. So I walked back into my office, sat down, pulled out a piece of paper. It was a legal pad, and I started scratching some numbers out. And it was literally 10 seconds. I walked back out, and I'll leave the expletive out. I said, there is no way I'm getting a job.
What did your wife say there?
Well, I said, but you got to trust me. Well, 10 minutes later, I'm back in my office, and I was framing out my consulting company, Trade Up Consulting, which is the company that trades the 10 factor. So that's how my program starts. There's a 10-second test, and then a 10-minute dream statement, and then 10 hours later, you do a 10-hour reflection, which was the third step, and that's when I started putting my business plan together. So at that point in time, my 10-second test said, get out of the contracting business. That was what I wanted. And that's what I have each of my clients do is I say, just right now, grab a pen, tell me what you want out of life.
Okay, so let's look at this process, because right now we are looking at the process that you also wrote in the book, that you designed in the book. Mm-hmm. So let's imagine that you're working with one of our listeners right now.
Okay.
And the first step, as you said, was the 10-second steps. The 10 second, that's the first step, right?
Yep, that's one line. That's a phrase. That's what you want out of life, period.
What you want out of life, 10 seconds, write it down, that's it. Yep. Perfect. Then step number 2?
So then 10 minutes later, you expand that into a paragraph.
Right.
You kind of, you have some time to start thinking about it, keywords, things like that. And then you put it away, which is really, really important. Anybody that's ever tried to figure something out, that slept on it and woke up the next morning and go, aha, that's what I couldn't do yesterday. I have you put it away for 10 hours, which is, enough to get into your day. And I did that because I went back into my day when I lived through it. So those 3 steps together are when you start working on mindset. And that's what I call focus within the 10 factor. So then you move from that and you start assessing. Then you say, okay, I've got all these great ideas. I have a dream. What is my expertise? Either this is an expertise I already have or an expertise I'm going to learn. And then this is the really important part. Can I bring them together? And can I make money doing it? Because we're talking about a work expertise. We're not talking about a hobby. We're talking about something that you're going to, support your family and your needs on.
Something that people would pay money for. You know what I'm loving about this, because I'm reflecting, and I think that's perfect for someone who's starting out, but also for others that are already in business, that are launching new programs. Because
it is exactly,
I remember the process that I've been through when we did the rebranding and when we started pivoting our business for the first time. And before we were starting seminars, which our main program was Live Your Purpose, Live Your Life. When I started, what was that? 7 years ago. So that was Live Your Purpose, Live Your Life. And then we moved to Explode Your Coaching Business and then Explode Your Expert Business. And I remember then when we had to move and to change all the programs or to launch new products or to launch new services, that's something that we have to do because we need to assess, is it a good idea first? Is it something that is going to make money? Second. And is it something that is going to distract me? And I think that, just putting that on the side, it takes away a bit more the emotion that you have in the moment that you're writing it down. Because once you are, once you're there in this, the first 10 seconds and then the second 10 minutes, then you have all these emotions coming up. You have the excitement, you have the idea, it's brilliant. And then you put it away and then the logic takes over. And I think it's important to have both. That's what I'm loving about this process that you've been describing.
Imagine, put yourself in my shoes. You just hang up the phone with your attorney and then you go out and you tell your wife after 10 years, I got to go get a job. Do you think that's a good time to make a lifelong decision? No, you got to put it away. And that's really important. That's why I do that. So in my book, it literally says stop.
I like that. a blank chat, stop. That's it.
Matter of fact, one of my readers, he called me up and because it's somebody that I work with, one of my clients, and he goes, I got to put your book down because you told me to stop, and I want to keep going, and I really want to follow what you said. I said, just be patient. Tomorrow will come.
Nice.
Yeah.
So then they stop, and then you're assessing.
Right. Right. So then what
So
you're doing is you're assessing, and you're assessing in two ways. It starts with self-assessment.
Hmm.
You're digging deep, and I walk you through a series of exercises, and you're assessing, like, how much money am I going to make? Do I really love this? Is it sustainable? Is this, does it meet my core values? See, because you talked about doing different directions. I use a hub and spoke approach with my clients. So the hub is your core values. And I spend a lot of time in the beginning stages of a relationship with a client, figuring out what is that hub, what is that core. And then the spoke could be, like you said, a specific seminar or whatever that is that you're doing at that moment in time that centers around those core values. So then the third thing you do is you go out and you start talking amongst your peers and making sure that, does this thing stink, or is it real? Is this something tangible? Yeah. So you're testing yourself, and then you're testing with other people. And I call that the gut check and the sniff test is what I call that. And then
okay, let me stop you there for a moment, because I have a question regarding who to talk to, because I'm sure that you don't.
Question.
Because I'm sure that you don't go and talk to anyone about it. I mean, I remember that sometimes. I remember when I decided to become a life coach 7 years ago. I was 22. So all my friends were still smoking weed in Italy, and still going to university. And I had already 8-year career in the catering industry, started when I was 14. And then I said, I want to become a life coach, something that in Italy didn't even exist at that time. And I'm not telling you the answers I got.
Because, you don't have to.
Because, right? But you can imagine where I'm going. So how do you select the best people then to validate this sniff test?
That's a great question. So I work in terms, I framed this out like a basketball game, and we could talk through that as we go through the steps, which I'm sure you could resonate with, right? So right now we are in pregame. We haven't even hit the court yet. Yeah. And pregame is the first month. Then we get into the first quarter. So what happens is, through the process of the 10 factor, as you're building out your mind as to what you want to do, you're also building out your all-star team, which is your circle of influence. And I'm teaching somebody, even a successful business owner or entrepreneur, has to constantly go back and reassess who they're taking advice from and who they're associating with. So you run through a series of checks to make sure that you're talking to the right people. Now, the right people is your circle of influence being your support team. Obviously, like in my case, my wife was a huge part of that. This is your mentor, your coach. And then what I found was really important was talking to peers. So in the context of masterminds and networking, I was constantly testing my unique value proposition. And honestly, the consulting business, I struggled to get my message straight before I named it the 10 factor. And I had a 3-step process to get myself out of trouble. One was to optimize the contracting company to pay the bills, which I did. The second was to start a consulting company, not doing what I wanted to do, but making money to get me out of the gates. So I went after my expertise, which was construction, and I really went after that hard and did a thing on LinkedIn and got some work relatively quick, which allowed me to pay for doing what I wanted to do, which was mastering the coaching and the consulting, which is what I do now. So that for me was kind of the process. And I do the same thing with my clients. We work through what makes sense. But in answer to your question, you need to talk to the right people that are going to support what you do, but they are also going to tell you, hey, It sounds great on paper, but that's not realistic. You need somebody that's going to give you constructive criticism. So
Absolutely. If they do the sniff test and it stinks, they gotta tell you, mate, it stinks.
absolutely. So what I did tons of coffee meetings. I did phone calls. I actually sent emails to people in my really close circle and said, hey, can you give me feedback, good and bad, about me as a person? And this was through years of my life. And I took all of that together and I kind of honed in on really where I wanted to be. And all of that was a piece of it. So yeah, there's lots that goes into it. And that's why it's not a rush. You have to work through that. So then after that first month, then you commit. And then when you commit, you lead into step 4. It's factors spelled backwards, and then TEN is the steps. So then the next step is to take calculated actions to get this thing going.
Right.
And that's where, depending on where you're at in business, you might even be so much as picking your business name, you're aligning with a marketing expert, you're aligning with an attorney and an insurance agent, and the pieces that make your business. You're building out your all-star team, and you're building out your unique value proposition at the same time. And you're continuing to test. And then what we need to do, right? You got to get clients, or you have to get your sales. So then you're trying to get that first win, that first sale. You're trying to validate whatever you're doing. And you're validating it to yourself that, hey, my idea, my dream, my expertise, yes, it is saleable. But it's not perfect. It's not optimized. It's at that point. So we're in the first and second quarter here now, where we're out and we're implementing, we're testing, we're breaking things, right? Nothing is going as planned, but we're learning a lot about ourselves. We're learning a lot about our systems. And more importantly, we're learning about who's buying it. What do they want?
Yep.
We're trying to figure out, because you and I both know if you sell to what you want, guess what? You're not going to be in business for long. So you're trying to figure out, who is my avatar and what do they want from me? And that's what you do in the first half, through the first and the second quarter. Then you move into halftime. So what happens at halftime in a basketball game? You go in the locker room, right?
You go into the locker room and you assess it. Your coach looks at the best schemes and the best attack and defense to use based on what he has seen so far. And then we have a new strategy to go in for the next 2 quarters.
So we optimize at halftime.
Absolutely.
That's when we take all that raw data and testing and real life experiences and we optimize. So during halftime, we're continuing to sell work. This is months 4 and 5 in the system. You're continuing to sell work. You're continuing to put work in place, and you're building out your back ends and you're adjusting your front ends accordingly, so that when you roll out into month 6, you reassess. And when you reassess, that's when you kind of take a step back, you reflect, and you say, okay, I'm going 100 miles an hour, because we all know in startup mode or reinvention mode or, launching a new system mode, we're working at breakneck speed, because us entrepreneurs, we just have relentless energy, and we're out there. We love what we do. If you're in the right, if you did the first
if you're doing the right thing, yeah.
You love what you do. So the passion is there, which is so awesome. But you're also building out your team, because you can't go at this breakneck speed forever. So what you're doing is each month you start shedding the load, and you're working on your virtual assistant and who's going to take over your video editing and all of the things that are basically not making you any money directly. But if you don't do them, you don't have a business. Yeah. That's what you're trying to do. You're figuring out, what am I really good at, and what am I going to do, and then what am I going to delegate? So each month you're working through that. So you're reassessing when you hit the second half, so that you can figure out, am I good where I'm at? Like I've built a business because you can build a business in 5 months. I've built a business that I'm proud of that can make me money. So do I want to stop there, or do I want to try to scale this thing and build something bigger? And that is a question I cannot answer for one of my clients, because if I answer it, then that's a mistake. You need to answer that yourself. Where do you want to be? And you have to look at your family. You have to look at your situation. You have to look at the risk factors you want to take, how much you want to work, and you have to look at your lifestyle. What do you want? I have a client right now that wants to work 20 hours a week. And guess what? We've already cut 10 of his 40 away. just by working through his opening processes, we need to get the other 10 and we'll take care of that. But that's what they want. So for them, money is a second.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's different. I have
Yeah.
another client that wants to double their business. And we have a date on the calendar when that business is going to be doubled. And guess what? We're going to do that. We might even beat that. But that's what's important is you're reassessing and because my system is custom. It's customizable where it fits you. It's a big detailed roadmap that you have to fill in the blanks in order to make it work. So then once you reassess, then you start scaling. And I walk you through in the system a calculated process of scaling so that you don't scale yourself out of business. Joint venture partnerships, affiliate partnerships, adding additional systems, like maybe you start speaking and getting paid to speak where you didn't speak before. Maybe instead of just selling a course in person, you're selling an online course. Maybe you're running a mastermind or coaching individuals, lots of different things you can do. All based around that hub, you're filling out the different spokes of that wheel to allow you to either 2 times or 5 times or 10 times your business. And then what happens is through the next few months, you go through a series of checks to check your mindset, check your commitment, and see whether you want to really continue to do this thing or whether you want to get to the next step, which is T, which is taking steps to maintain or sustain for the long term, which is really, really important. So at some point, you're either going to continue to grow your business and you're going to become a CEO and not a entrepreneur so much. And then maybe you become a silent owner. If you want to take that route, maybe you want to sell your business or you want to be in the trenches working with people, face to face for your whole career. So that's a different path. Whatever that path that fits you, then we work to get to that point. And then you have to figure out how to sustain it and stay relevant long term, continue to learn, continue to provide value, and then continue to enhance to make sure that you don't go backwards and that you keep your mindset in place. And then you enjoy. That's it. You did all that. You did all this stuff.
You did all the stuff, and then you enjoy it.
And you're enjoying it along the way.
Yeah.
But you and I both know that this time of a business, you sacrifice a tremendous amount of things.
Absolutely.
Like for you sacrifice basketball, I believe, right?
Yeah, I sacrificed
and now
basketball
you're back
for my career and my first part of the business. I sacrificed basketball for 9 years.
Yeah, I mean, you
actually,
sacrificed
8 years, 10 years. 10 years. It's been because before I was working in catering and I was working in restaurants, and to manage restaurants, I didn't have my evenings off. So I couldn't attend my trainings or I couldn't attend my Saturday and Sunday games. And then I started this mental thing called having my own business. And that took me every single hour that it was in the day. There was no day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There was no weekend. There was no night. There was no day. There was just like growing the business and figuring out also my expertise and learning a complete new field that I didn't know before when I started. Because I think that the point that you're starting from is a point of where you already have an expertise. And then you go back to that expertise. But if you don't have that expertise, then you need to put extra time on it to build that expertise first. Because you can't build an expert business or an expertise that you don't have. That doesn't work this way. But you build your expertise, you build your experience, you already have an expertise, and then you build your business based on that. And following your steps, then I can see this happening and growing. So what I want to ask you right now is in terms of you and your business, what do you find that works the most for you in terms of getting clients? Because we're all in the expert field.
Okay.
And a lot of our listeners want to know what happens behind the scene. What happens behind the scene of Tim's life? How does he run his business? How does he get clients? How does he scale or operate? So tell us a bit more about how do you run your business behind the scene?
Okay, let's do it. So let's start with schedule.
Right.
One of the things that I had to do in order to really do this was take complete control of my time. So with my contracting business, I started saying no, period. And I started turning down 9 out of 10 jobs because they weren't the right jobs. I went through my client list and I dumped a bunch of my clients, not Not that I don't like them, but they weren't good clients to work with. So why try to sell them work if they're not a good fit? And I've always done this to some degree, but I really zoomed in on it. I always schedule on my calendar my personal items first, because if you say I'll do it tomorrow, then guess what? Tomorrow never really happens.
Never happens.
So like, for example, I coach youth sports year round. I continue to do that through this whole rebuilding process. So, 3 seasons a year I coach, which is pretty much all year round. There's not much of a break. So I do that. I stay active in my church. I get to my kids' stuff. I mean, if there's something at school in the middle of the day, I'm there because it's on my calendar. I schedule everything around that. And I continue to invest in myself through learning and mastering. My 2 words for 2018 are master and serve. So I'm continuing to learn every day. And in the process of learning, I'm taking what I learn and then I'm applying it and giving that back to people that are following me. So I provide a lot of value. So in answer to your question about getting clients, there is definitely a know you, like you, trust you funnel. And I'm sure your listeners have heard you talk about it too, because it's basically common knowledge. But if you want one client, then 100 people better know you, and only 10 are going to like you. So what has to happen is you get haters. You start to have people that don't like what you say, then you're on the right track. If everybody likes what you're saying, then you're probably doing something wrong.
Yep.
That's really important. So if you can envision somebody scrolling through a Facebook feed, if 100 people, and this isn't 100 random people, this is 100 people in your space. This is 100 people that are entrepreneurs or, potentially going to buy what you sell. As they're scrolling through it, 90 out of 100 are going to go right past you like you don't even exist. 10 are going to pause, and those 10 are going to suck you forever free of all of your free value. They are never going to buy. Well, those 10 people are never going to really be that successful because they just take and absorb all this information. They read lots of books, they go to lots of trainings, but they never implement. You are looking for that one person out of 100 that's going to buy from you. And as you become a bigger influencer, that may go to 2 or 3 out of 100, but that's your buyer. So what happens is as you develop your system, your core values, and then your spokes off your hub, it's really important that you talk to that avatar, that client. So we spend a lot of time with my clients trying to figure out who is my perfect client. And if you can talk to that perfect client in your videos, in your emails, in your messaging, everything that you put out is passed towards that perfect client, then you will not have a problem getting clients as long as what you put out is mastered and good and authentic and not fake, and it's tangible. It's something that somebody can actually use. Because there's what, 7 billion people in this world?
Yep.
You could find clients.
Absolutely.
It's a matter of getting in front of the right ones and making sure that enough know you that you can filter through. Think back to my contracting company. 9 out of 10 I was saying no to. It always comes to that 10%. 90 to 95% of entrepreneurs will fail. And by failing, I mean give up. It's the 5% that stick at it, that commit, and really that are going to be successful long term and sustain it. So that's a big thing is taking control of your time and then figuring out who that avatar is and really zeroing in on what your unique value proposition is. And then the next thing is just getting out there, getting your message out. If nobody hears it, there is no message, there is no buyer.
How do you get your message? What do you do personally to get your message out there? What are the activities that you do to make sure that more people know about how awesome you are?
So I do a lot of very active on social media, and something I've learned from my mentor is do a video a day. So I do between a 30 and 60 second video every single day. Now this is important. Matter of fact, I just put out a 6-minute video training today on video simplifying for entrepreneurs. I just posted it on my website and on my social media accounts because a lot of people don't know how to do a video. They think they know, but they really don't. So I mastered it in the sense of I do it every single day. So I'm very, very comfortable now on the video in front of the camera. I'm very comfortable here with you on the camera. Obviously you are too, because you do the same thing. You continue to speak and talk on a regular basis. So what happens is you work out the kinks. You're basically practicing while you're putting value out. And honestly, people don't care whether you look good or not. They carry what the message is. So I was making a big mistake early on, and I was introducing myself. I would say, hi, my name is Tim Meuchel with the 10 Factor. And that was taking me about 6 seconds. Well, guess how long an average person watches a video on Facebook?
6 seconds.
So guess what? Everybody knew my name, but they didn't know what the heck I did. So I got trained, and I spent 2 days in an intense training on learning social media and mastering it. And they really beat me up on the hot seat. They went through my videos and said, you're doing the same thing. And I was the guy raising my hand saying, hey, am I doing this wrong? Absolutely, you're doing this wrong, because nobody cares who you are. They want to know what the message is. So get this. So I stopped introducing myself. I started doing that at the end because I was repeating it at the end anyway. And my Facebook video metrics, my watch time on my videos doubled almost instantly. And they went from like 7 or 8 seconds to my average watch time between 15 and 18 seconds, which is a winner. Absolutely. If you can get somebody to watch your video for 15 seconds, the average, you're well on your way to a winner.
Absolutely.
So that means a couple things. That means you're going to the right audience, and that means you're providing real content, and that means you're learning to do video. So for me, that was huge. And then I enjoy putting the value out. So as fast as I learn it, I share it. Now, this is a big thing. With my contracting company, I made a mistake of I provided custom value for free. I.e., this is how you write an email to this specific client to deal with this specific issue you asked me about. Well, guess what? You got to pay me for that now. But I will tell you, exactly how to do a video for free. I put it right out there to everybody. But if you want to come in and get trained and really, have me go through your individual videos and critique them and stuff, well, that's what you have to pay for. And I think that's the same with you with your seminars.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that I do is I'm not afraid to talk to other people in the space. Like you and I probably would have the same type of client that may look at both of us and say, which one of these two am I going to work with? I interviewed somebody yesterday for my podcast that is a competitor to me in a lot of instances. And I'm not nervous by that, because I know that what I'm putting out is a good product for somebody that wants to do it the way that I'm doing it. Yep. And if they do that and they commit and they follow, they will be very, very successful. So that's a few tips. And I mean, obviously it's a lot more complex.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's good to have an insight on what do you do behind the scene. I think that the value that you're talking about the videos and how to run them, that was very powerful. Now I'm aware of the time, so we need to wrap up for the show. How can people reach out to you, Tim?
Well, that's easy. Go to the10factor.com. So that's THE10FACTOR.com. If you go there, you can get links. It'll take you right to my book. So you can go ahead and buy my book, The 10 Factor. You'll have information to link up with me to get a personal assessment, so we could get you started working in that context. And you can learn all about my history. I know I told you a little bit today, but there's a lot more. You can learn about that. And then I have trainings posted there, links to all my social sites. I'm very active on Facebook. I'm active on Instagram, and I'm active on LinkedIn. I also maintain a Twitter account, but I'm not very active there. So needless to say, I'm not hard to find.
Here we go. So make sure that you go on the 10factor.com and get in touch with Tim and get his book. Definitely, this is a must-have, so that you can dive deeper into the content that he has delivered today. And also you can ask him and you can follow him. You can see how he does it, because as experts, we learn from each other. There is a lot that we learn just by observing how we do things, and by modeling and seeing how someone else. That's how I learn. I'll see something that Tim does and I like that. How can I apply that to my business? Tim will see something that I do and he might say, oh, I like that. How can I apply that to my business? So, and that's how we learn. So is make sure that you connect with him, we connect with each other. We're going to add the team as well on our Facebook group, the Explode Your Expert Biz community. So then any question that you have on the release of the episode, you can contact him directly through there, and I'm going to run a post with a Q&A on the date of release as well. So make sure that you stay tuned and you look out for it. Tim, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you as a guest on the Explode Your Expert Biz show.
No, this was awesome. I loved it. I mean, you run a good show. You ask great questions. You lead me right down the path, and you let me talk, which I love to talk, obviously. So, as do you.
Hey, that's how we are, right? We're speakers.
That's why we do it. Yeah.
That's what we do.
So this was great.
We get paid to talk. The most beautiful job in the world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, and before we go, good luck to you in the basketball playoffs that are coming up here, right?
Thank you. Yeah, we are in the middle of playoffs. Well, we have the last 4 games. So, I don't know if on date of release where we will be in the journey. I think it probably will be down to the end of the last 4, but let's we are all in and we're gonna make it. There is no other way. We just want to go to playoffs. So we have 4 games to win, and let's go and win them.
I love it. That's awesome.
All right. Thank you again, Tim. Thanks a lot. And listeners, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Explode Your Expert Biz show. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure that you click right now that juicy subscribe button. I know it's calling you, so click that right now so that you don't miss any other episode and you can be updated on when the next episode is going to be released. And also give us a 5-star rating. I would really appreciate if you can send us a review and give us a rating. You know the game, the more ratings we have, the more people are going to see the show. So if you like what we do, if you support our work, then that's the least you can do. Just give us a rating, give us a comment, a review, and let us know, what did you love the most about this interview? What do you love the most about what Tim shared today? I want to know, Tim wants to know, iTunes wants to know, so make sure that you let us know. Thank you very much for listening. I'm looking forward to seeing you next episode of Explode Your Expert Biz show. And remember that together we grow exponentially.